I'm really excited today because we have a special guest on the show. His name is Peter Brand, and he's a serial entrepreneur. Peter started and sold many companies, one of which was purchased by my last company, which is where we met. If you want to understand how entrepreneurs approach risk, and more importantly, how they mitigate risk in a way that enables them to operate faster than everybody else, you'll want to listen on. He's also going to tell us about his current venture, which I think is going to be of particular interest to real estate investors across the board. So without further ado, here is our interview with Peter Brand. If there's one thing I've learned in my business career, it's that I don't have all the answers. Look, I'm an ambitious guy, and I like to make progress fast. The secret to achieving success fast is to harness the brain power of other people in the community. That's what the Land.MBA Smart Bar is all about. As veteran investor Jesse Marchand said, the Smart Bar gave me the motivation and knowledge I needed to push through the tough times and accelerate my path to success. Seven-figure investor Mitch Milam likes to say, there's one meeting each week that I never miss. It's the Land.MBA Smart Bar. It's like happy hour with my land investing buddies. I always learn something. So if you want to network with like-minded people, make new friends, learn heaps, get questions answered, answer questions for others, learn new strategies, get accountability, and overall, get inspired while having a great time, check out the Land.MBA Smart Bar. For a short time, podcast listeners can get 20% off the annual plan, which comes to an insane $86 per month. Compare this to other programs which charge $250 a month or more. This is hands down the best deal you're going to find and the best way to invest in your success. So don't wait. Please go to land.mba/mastermind. That's land.mba/mastermind and use promo code podcast22 to join today. Hello, all you gorgeous entrepreneurial land investors. This is Howard Zonder with my partner, David Van Steenkist, and this is the Land.MBA podcast. And we are very, very excited to have a special guest today. His name is Peter Brand. He's a good friend of mine. We go back a long way, a serial entrepreneur. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about risk, and we're going to talk about his current venture, which I think is going to be of particular interest to all of you land investors and really a lot of other people, particularly people who are solopreneurs and small business owners. So, Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.
It is wonderful to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So we go back a ways. So Peter and I actually went to the same graduate school, but we didn't go at the same time. We didn't actually know each other at that time. What year did you graduate, by the way? I'm going to put a date on you.
I graduated business school in '94.
Okay, so I graduated at the end of '95. So we just missed each other.
Yes, we did.
And then many, many years later, I was working at a European-based company, and Peter, being the serial entrepreneur, ended up selling one of his businesses to that company, and I think we met at a party.
We did, and I don't remember what country it was at, but I think it may have been in China. I'm not sure.
Probably so, something like that. I think you're right. I think it was Shanghai now that I think about it. So anyway, it's funny how, birds of a feather flock together. We just kind of found each other and created our own little group there in the big company. So at any rate, I was very interested in his company at that time. And what are you? You're like 2-3 companies beyond that now, right?
It's probably even more than that. But yeah, I've stayed true to the digital lane, and every business that I've been involved with the exception of one, has two things in common. They're digital businesses, and it works with, and the medium, so to speak, is content. Different types of content for different solutions and people, but those are the two things that I work with for every business, with the exception of one.
Got it. Well, a lot of the people who come into Land, well, I shouldn't say a lot. Some are just natural born entrepreneurs, and they've discovered Land as the next thing. We've got a bunch of people, certainly within our orbit of Land.MBA, who have come in. They owned Amazon businesses. I had one guy who owned a jewelry business. And when I say jewelry, I mean he was like making biker jewelry and going to all like to Sturgis and all the bike shows selling, but he made a fortune at it too. And then, like any good entrepreneur, he recognized when the market was in danger and sold out, making a lot of money, and then it was looking for the next thing and found Land. But we've got a lot of people that do that kind of thing. And then other people who are not necessarily entrepreneurs, but they're entrepreneurial. Actually, until I got into Land, I would put myself in that category. I was very entrepreneurial, but I was always working in a big company. It wasn't until I left UBM and went full time in Land that I actually truly became an entrepreneur. And then there are other people who just come from a different background. They don't necessarily have that background. And I've always found that the people who are entrepreneurial, or certainly the entrepreneurs, tend to have the most success and the fastest success. And one of the real reasons is because of their attitude towards risk. I think people who don't come from that background they spend so much time and energy and effort trying to squeeze out and mitigate every last bit of risk before they put up any of their own money or any of their own time. They don't act. So yeah. I'm just curious, as a serial entrepreneur, can you talk a little bit about your philosophy and how you deal with risk?
Well, you can't avoid it. That's the first thing. You can't avoid risk. You can't wish it away. I think that when I look at risk, I find certain scenarios more risky than others. And what I'm about to say will probably surprise you. I find it risky to work for someone else. I find it risky to work for a large corporation. I believe that trusting in yourself is a better bet, better gamble, better risk profile than trusting someone else who holds your cards and may have other competing priorities that don't necessarily include you or your best interests. So I think the first thing is and this is a personal perspective, but I trust myself more than I trust other organizations, institutions. So I'm comfortable with that. But from a practical standpoint, not a philosophical standpoint, there are things you can do to mitigate risk, but you can't mitigate everything. So when I enter a venture or a new potential venture, it is important to do your homework. But once you reach a certain threshold, you got to jump and you got to put the plan in motion. And that's, I think that's really the jumping off point, the burning of the ship, whatever metaphor you want to attach to it. But what's propelling you and where's the fire in the belly? And I think that, my risk profile is, I think it's high, given the number of startups and ventures I've executed, but I think it can be mitigated through education. Do your homework, make sure that you are aware of what you're jumping into, and then remain focused and get after it, because you do control your own destiny, whether you have an entrepreneurial mindset or you're actually, you're running your own business. So that's hopefully that provides some portal into at least my perspective.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. It's, the part about ACT, it's, I think, especially people who they've been, working a W-2, they know that that's a dead end and they need to do something else. And they don't have either the training or experience, and certainly not yet have the guts to just jump out and quit their job, nor should they. It's always, side hustle, build that side hustle up until, you're making at least equal to your day job and then think about, and for 6 months at least, and then jump. You should be looking back going, I should have quit 6 months ago when you quit. But one of the things, that I see all the time in real estate, and this is the same in land as well, but I started in houses, flipping houses and wholesaling, and I had some rentals, but it's tough to get out there and finally pull the trigger, or to pull the trigger on committing to significant marketing dollars per month to try to get properties, especially when you don't have a lot in the tank and you're not sure if it's going to work. And what if you don't get any deals? If you all have all these questions, but I see that so often. Like, I'll go to real estate meetups and I'll see the same people that I've seen for years and they've still never done a deal, but they've also, in most cases, not invested in training and mentoring either. And that's how you hack your way to success.
Yeah, you hit on something I think is really important, which is, I think there's a misconception that being an entrepreneur or being of an entrepreneurial mindset, you're some sort of a lone wolf and you're a maverick and you just like to walk alone. And I think it couldn't be more opposite. I think most successful entrepreneurs, they have a team and they build a team around them. And what they're doing is they're mitigating the risk by being able to rely upon other people's experience, perspective, and understanding. And through my years of doing this, I have a team, and they're, in some cases, they're part of the venture. In other cases, they're advisors. In other cases, they're just people who I know and trust. And the network that grows over time, chances are I have a contact that I can lean on and say, hey, Tony, what do you think of this? Or what do you think what do you think of this idea? Or what do you think of this risk? Or how do we mitigate this risk? Or who do you know in this particular sector? And that helps tremendously in getting your idea or your business to market, and it speeds things along. And that's the advantage that an entrepreneur has. It's speed and being able to execute at a much more rapid rate than your typical corporate scenario, where you're operating by committee and you're waiting for your boss to sign off on something. We don't work that way, and I think most entrepreneurs don't really work that way, and that's one of the big advantages.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting point. Entrepreneurial ventures, certainly the ones I've been part of, one of the first thing that the entrepreneur does is he builds his board of advisors. And long before there's a board of directors, there's a board of advisors. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're doing it out of friendship. Oftentimes they're doing it because they've got some level of skin in the game that you've provided to them because they believe in you and have had experience with you in the past. And it's really kind of similar to what Napoleon Hill would call the brain trust, although in some of his cases those people were dead. So we won't add Andrew Carnegie into our brain trust, but maybe we build a board of advisors of people who have experience in different facets of whatever the venture is, have some Rolodex, they can introduce us to the right people at the right time. Really, really powerful. And this idea of building that team versus going it alone, gosh, that is just so important. And I think to a person who hasn't come from that background, it almost seems shocking and almost scary, right? So because in doing it, one thing I think it found is that one of the reasons entrepreneurs always seem to be so confident is because they're very comfortable with the idea of, I don't know anything. I'm just going to surround myself with people who really know what they're doing and can keep me from making that big mistake. I'll provide the energy. I'll be, the engine of the train, but I need people to make sure I stay on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you don't have to have all the answers, and you're not going to ever find all the answers anyway. So I wouldn't be searching for every question to be answered, but relying upon people you trust and also people who will challenge you. You don't really want to surround yourself with negative Neds who just find, poke holes in absolutely everything you say,
Right.
because that's not helpful either. It's easy, it's easy to just shoot down every single idea or every initiative or every positive, pathway. But you do want people to challenge you and question certain aspects, because it'll make the business, the idea, the venture, the opportunity stronger.
Absolutely. And as a CEO, it's your responsibility to, you need to be able to figure out how to sort of navigate the advice of those advisors too, right? For example, and we talk about this frequently, if you just did everything your attorney and CPA said, you'd never do any business. So their job is to make you aware of any potential risk. Your job is to say, all right, what are the odds and what are the consequences? And I'm going to make a decision based on that. And how do I mitigate if it happens?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And absolutely on point.
That's great. The other thing that's happened in the last, it's been like 20, 30 years now, but it's a good metaphor for business in general. And that was when I first got out of Thunderbird and I got in my first job at Lucent Technologies. I was a product manager, and back in those days we were doing traditional product management, which means we went out and we did a buttload of customer research. We kind of figured out what we thought was the hole in the market. We did the market research, and from the market research we developed a feature set, and we built the product and we put it out there in a 1.0 fashion. And then somewhere along the line, that whole model of product management shifted to this concept of Agile. And Agile says, you know what? It's all about speed. We're going to build the minimal viable product. It's going to do the absolute minimal. We're going to get it out there as fast as we can. And we're not going to try to anticipate the market. We're simply going to let the market talk to us, and we're going to build what they ask for. It really does actually de-risk the entire model.
It does.
And it seems like when you start a business now, that really is the model. Let me just put something out there. The really important part is the communication with the market, so that you're getting that feedback loop, and then just make adjustments.
Yeah, I think I take it for granted, because you're absolutely right, Howard, in that the process is to learn and it's to listen, and with the Agile model, and it does eliminate the risk, because all you need, and I'm oversimplifying it, but all you need to do is build the product, get it out there, try to get enough people to utilize that product, and listen to the feedback. And you need to ask the questions, and you need to really work hard to get that information. It's not always easy to get the information, because time and people's time is precious. It's probably, I think it's safe to say, time is the most precious commodity. It's not money, it's not gold. And you don't want to waste people's time. But you also, with Agile, you want to get to iterate and change and improve the product as quickly as possible. So in the digital world, and mostly in nowadays in most product world, you're working on sprints, and the sprints vary in different times, but it's 1 or 2 weeks. We're fixing the product, doing these specific things to improve it. In the next 2 weeks, you continue to listen to the market, you organize your sprint, and you're continuing to make progress. It's not a set it and forget it type of situation, and you're always striving to improve. If you're doing it right, you never end. You never end that process of improving your product. And it's applicable, I think it's applicable to all companies. There are very few static companies out there who live and operate in a world where they can just kind of sit on their egg and do nothing. It's unlikely. It's an unlikely scenario to have that situation these days.
Yeah, not in this day and age.
Yeah,
things move too fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting, because I came from I spent many years in the labeling and coding product identification world, and so we were selling, automatic label applicators and inkjet printers and lasers. They put the expiry dates and labels on your food as it comes down the conveyor and all that stuff. And so whenever we were, it's a lot easier when you have a purely digital product to keep fine tuning. But when you have mechanicals out there and hydraulics and electronics, if you screw that up, it's really costly to iterate. So we always try to design around making sure, okay, the mechanics and the electronics and the hydraulics had to be as, buttoned up as possible to launch the product and get it out there. If we had to make software changes, that's pretty easy. In fact, I used to run a team in Sweden, and I had about 45 engineers working for me. And the software guys used to love me because I would rib them and say, well, okay, that's easy. That's only software. We can fix that easily. They're like, what do you mean? The solution is like 10 times more complicated than a mechanical one. I said, yeah, but I got 2,000 machines out in the field that I got to send mechanical parts and send a technician out to install, when I can have my customer log on and download a patch and put it on their machine if it's software. So
it's a totally different ballgame.
Yep.
But it's fascinating because in truth, and I don't know why it just occurred to me now to think this way. The land business fundamentally is a digital content business. We send out letters. We send out a piece of content called a letter, an offer letter, to try to get somebody to facilitate a deal. And then once we get the land, we use digital marketing and we use other sales techniques, but contracts and whatnot. All of that is content. All of it is content designed to facilitate the transaction of a piece of property that we really never see into and out of our system. And so that content, because it's content, can be altered and changed all the time. And one thing I've always admired about David is a tweaker. He may also be a twerker. I'm not sure about that, but he's definitely a tweaker.
Tell my meth dealer that.
But his, he looks at his letters and he's constantly, he's changing them and he's trying new ones and he's putting them out there and seeing how they land in the marketplace. And he's never content. When I first got into this, the program that I came through said, this is the letter, just use the letter. It's tried and true. It works. Don't change anything. Well, I just wanted to take the fax number off because I didn't want to do a fax, and I had to go that was hard coded. I had to ask somebody to do that for me, So I want complete control over all those digital assets so that I can so that we can make those kinds of instant changes and do A/B tests and try everything. But it's fascinating. It really is a digital business.
And content is king, as they say. I think it still is. But it's also the way people are consuming content is changing more rapidly than any other time in history. There's so many different mediums out there. Social media is obviously key, but also probably the most overused marketing word these days is AI, and artificial intelligence and ChatGPT is the new, I don't want to say it's the new flavor of the month, because I think it is very, very real, and it's going to disrupt search, and it's going to disrupt all sorts of industries. It's also going to improve a lot of industries. And it really is a pretty exciting time to be, in the technology space, in the content space, and in the communication space, because they touch every single industry. And as you said, Howard, you're looking at land and drawing the parallel of it being a content business. It's so reliant upon content, and if that portion of it is not on point, you're not going to be as successful as you can be.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Tweaking and iterating, which is which is your comment about David, is that that's like operating a sprint. You're changing it to improve and move towards the most efficient or most effective message. And it's true in land. It's true in digital marketing and public relations and every communication form out there.
For sure. Well, we should talk a little bit about your new venture, because I think your new venture is going to be very, very interesting and attractive to our audience of solopreneurs and small business owners. So tell us a little about what it is, and then once you tell what it is, how did you come to decide that this is going to be the next big thing for you?
So the venture, the business, it's no longer a venture. Venture sounds like, oh, we just thought about it. It's on the drawing board. It's live and it's operational. The business is Family Playbook. So the idea came to me. This is the most personal business I've ever been affiliated with, because it came from a very personal experience. It came out of the death of my mother about 10 years ago. And the experience when she passed away was obviously very upsetting, and went through the normal process of grieving. But there's a second aspect which hits you over the head that you think you're prepared for, but most people are not. And that is during the immediate aftermath, when someone passes away, there's a flurry of questions. They usually start with what would they want, what are their burial wishes, and they sort of expand into dealing with the estate. And what I found was that all of this information was scattered across a variety of different disciplines. It's scattered across a lot of different folders, paperwork, mediums, computers, cell phones, so on and so forth. And gathering it is an absolute, like it's a landmine. It's a minefield, trying to find and gather the information. So the idea for the business and the concept was, hey, there's got to be a better way to help families organize their legal, financial, property, insurance, and end-of-life wishes and contacts, all in a digital vault. And the idea was with me 10 years ago, and I figured, hey, I'm probably the outlier, and my family is the one that is, somewhat disorganized. And what I quickly found out was that it's so commonplace. It's my experience is very much what happens to just about everyone. And it's very rare you come across a family that is buttoned up, has a playbook that allows people to understand exactly what their wishes are, where everything is, and lays that out. The other thing I learned was, even if you have this mythical plan, this mythical documentation, if you don't share it with someone, it's absolutely 100% useless.
Worthless.
So the extent with which you are organized doesn't mean anything if you haven't told people where and how to access it and share the information. So that's basically, that was the background on why we built Family Playbook, which takes users through a discovery process, which is, we ask a series of questions and they answer those questions based upon different disciplines like legal or financial or insurance. And by the time they're done, they have a digital, shareable, secure playbook that they can then share with their friends, their family, their professional network as they decide.
I just think it's utterly brilliant. I mean, I've thought about this for years. I mean, it was like solving a problem for myself. So it was simply like, let me get all this stuff together. Let me put it on a thumb drive somewhere and put it in my go bag. But, getting it all together in the cloud, and I don't know how you do it, because I mean, the pricing on this is so incredibly reasonable. I absolutely despise the term no-brainer, but it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yep.
So
yep.
we
$2 a month will pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the price of a cup of coffee, and depending upon where you buy it, whether you're a Dunkin' man or a Starbucks woman, whatever the case, and how many pumps you put in there. But it's The objective here was to create a solution that that is affordable and attainable for literally everyone. And I don't want to sound like a dark cloud, but we all know that life is precious. We will not live forever. And we also, in most cases, don't know when that day is going to come. So, spending a weekend and organizing yourself, and it's not even going to take a full weekend, spending a few hours to organize yourself and share this information, we make it easy, and we want to make it universal. So the price point is designed to make it attainable for anyone, regardless of what their financial circumstances are.
Yeah. I think this is wonderful. When Howard showed it to me, I'm like, yes, I need this, because it's something that has been like, I've got some stuff organized and other things. I'm like, God forbid. I mean, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, my poor daughter, but, when my dad passed away in 2018, and he had his stuff pretty well, decently put together. But I had been pushing him because he was starting to get a little dementia. I said, Dad, we really need to make sure you got your estate. He's like, I feel fine. I'm not going anywhere soon. I'm like, yes, but there is a bus with all of our names on it somewhere. So for your family, please get it done. I'm happy to help you, so this just is a really cool tool. And I can't wait to dig into it and get it all organized. So my daughter doesn't have to go through hell when I pass.
Yeah, it's definitely creating a legacy, and making, you're giving a tremendous gift to your family by eliminating or reducing that stress. You can't do anything about the grief, but you can do something about the stress. And I think that's a really, it's a very valuable gift to give to anyone's family, to help them with your legacy and their own. And also in your line of business, in the land business and the real estate business, the amount of documentation and paperwork it will probably make everyone's head spin. So it provides a nice central location to organize that information as well.
Absolutely right. We've talked about things like, I'm not going to go into details, but like different legal mechanisms to manage all of the owner financing contracts. So if God forbid anything happened to you, somebody else can be designated to execute them and transfer deeds and whatnot. And now this keeps it in a location. And one of the cool things about your application is that you can share all of it with somebody, or you can just show very specific parts of it to somebody. So you may have some pieces of it that would be appropriate to share with family members, and other parts that might be more appropriate to share with a friend or a business partner. It gives you a lot of flexibility to do all that. And it's just not just a vault for the documents. There's, opportunities to put in your instructions. They can be written. You can do a video, however you want to do it. It's just all in one place. And, like any kind of an insurance policy, you hope you don't need it, but when it does happen and you do need it, you're really thankful that it's there.
Absolutely. That is the sharing of the information is one of the most important aspects of this platform, to provide complete flexibility in what you share. And it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So you can share the entire playbook or portions of it with anyone you want to invite and share the information with. And that was a really important consideration, because the one of the pillars of the business is privacy. And there's a balancing act, but obviously we're not going to be selling or sharing anyone's information with anyone. That's one pillar. The other one is, on the other side, the user, the owner of the playbook, to give them complete flexibility on who they want to share things with and what they want to share. So they have complete control over that as well.
Yeah, very cool. And I have to say this because it's just funny. But as we're talking about this topic, which of course is very serious, the light is coming at you from the right-hand side, casting rays about you. It's like, I see the light. It's like a religious moment.
It does,
Jesus is calling, my brother.
They're calling me. They're calling me. I'd like to think that I'm angelic.
Well, I think when people realize the value of what you just created, they might feel that way too.
I hope
So,
so. I hope so.
yeah. So if you are interested in learning more about Family Playbook, like I said, it's so reasonably priced. It's really kind of a no-brainer to provide this kind of peace and security to yourself and to your family. You can go to you can say you go to familyplaybook.com, or you can go to our website, which is Land.MBA. That's the URL, Land.MBA. Go to our partners page, and it's right there. You can use coupon code LMBA30, and you get your first month for free. And you should absolutely check this out, no matter what. It's just the right thing to do, really, for anybody. I can't recommend it highly enough.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Dave, anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good. It was awesome talking to you, Peter, and learning more about your company and your new product and yourself. And I think it's I'm excited to dig in and try it. And I think our listeners and their families, I don't see anybody who couldn't benefit from this product, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, thanks, guys. It's great being on, and enjoy the day.
Awesome.
Thanks, Peter.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.